Obviously with block 1 in EOS, we're using that Chestahedron as the symbol of the work that we're doing, but that's all software. But this symbol in the physical world has many interesting applications which will slowly be revealed.
Mr. Brock Pierce doesn't need much intro for me, so Brock, bring that.
Such an honor and a privilege to be able to connect with the community. These projects, what it is that we're building and all of its potential is, it's driven by the community. The community is what is going to determine the success of these projects, and it is a great privilege and a great honor for me to be able to introduce someone who's been instrumental to this project in ways that most don't even understand. His work prior to the development of EOS has been the symbolism or the logo, which you've seen many times over, which is the Chestahedron. Most people probably don't know what that is, but here's an opportunity to connect with Frank. Historically, I think I'm the only person from the EOS community that had ever met him and been spending time with him, so this is the first time that the community gets to connect with Frank Chester. Please join me. I want to start with, how many of you are familiar with sacred geometry? This is something where most people don't understand this because it's a mystical thing. It's a secret thing that you're not supposed to be aware of. It's something that goes all the way back to Plato in this particular case. So Socrates and Plato. Plato released this knowledge, which he didn't discover, but he gets credited for what are known as the Platonic Solids. And these are the building blocks of the universe in which we live, representing the 4 elements as well as the ether. Frank, perhaps you'd like to take us a little bit down the rabbit hole and anything that you'd like to add about, sort of sacred geometry, and then specifically how that rabbit hole led you eventually to discovering this 7-sided symbol, which is really a transformative symbol, which is in between 2 different Platonic solids. And so if you can walk us through some of that, it would be greatly appreciated.
Sacred geometry is what I do. And sacred geometry is really great because all it is 3 instruments. And it's a stick. It's a painter's stick, works great. A compass. And a pen or pencil. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. There's no measurements. There's nothing to frustrate you because you have problems with math. This has nothing to do with trigonometry, it has nothing to do with algebra, it has nothing to do with any of the mathematical fields, okay, doesn't touch this area. It touches this area after it comes in. So I found this form, okay, with these. And what this is all about is, this is an artistic discovery. This doesn't have anything to do with science. Science could not have found this 7-sided form. Any mathematician would have never been able to find it, or it would have been here already, but it hasn't. Mathematics cannot lead to this, only art. Then after the art process that goes through, okay, then the math comes in. Okay, so Einstein said that the highest form of art is mathematics, and the highest form of mathematics is art. That's where I'm in. I'm right in between math and art. And when math doesn't work, I use art. When art doesn't work, I use math. And in between those is a transformation between those 2 fields. So this is an artistic process. Everything you see here is art. Okay, so To do sacred geometry, I think the best way to show you is that you make a circle. Well, this is an example of the sacred geometry that I use. And this is a good one because it shows there's two circles here with a center. And if I move the center out, as I'm moving this out, see how the center is going out? Okay, and when I get to the periphery, the center of the periphery of both of them, so that the center is in the periphery of this one and in the periphery of this one, I get a red line. And that red line is between this almond shape. And that almond shape creates from one side of the circle to the other side of the circle only when the compass points hit on the periphery. Okay. That is known as root 3. That distance right there is root 3. And I didn't take any measurements to get it, but it's perfect. So if you take root 3, which is here, it fits exactly into the diagonal of a cube. Perfect. That is root 3. Three-dimensionally. It's absolutely perfect. No measurements. Okay. The Chestahedron sits in a cube exactly at root 3. From this diagonal right here, it fits in perfect. And this Chestahedron will fit into a cube. Now, you have 7 sides that fit into 6 sides of a cube. How can you do that? You do that because the points, the 7 points, okay, they're not touch all of the edges or the vertices. There are 3 lines that touch the face. And then the rest of these right here, there are 4 that touch the vertices. This is an unbelievable thing because this form has never been discovered and yet it fits into a cube. Okay, so the cube is over here. The cube is Earth. So this is based on a form that fits into the Earth. Now, these 5 forms, okay, are really important for you guys, if you have any interest in this all, is understanding. And why is understanding? Is because they are your organs. Each one of those have a particular organ in you and me. They also are your temperament, sanguine or choleric, okay? So they're also the kingdoms, earth, water, air, and fire. They're also the psychology of you personally. They also represent what's your ailing, what ails you. And you came to be incarnated, okay, to work on your illness. And that is your gift. Whatever you are suffering from, okay, these represent that suffering. And it's your gift. So if you have a tetrahedron, okay, that has a certain temperament, it has a certain illness, it has a certain personality trait, and it's very important that you try to know this and try to work with it, because why you come here is because you're not perfect. You come here to work on being perfect. And this is one of the ways that you can go through it. Form. These are forms, you guys. These are 3-dimensional forms. Okay, so these forms, when you start to do this 2-dimensionally, and you continue to do it, make a circle here and a circle here. In the Egyptian times, they made the flower of life. Okay, these are 19 circles that did this. So these are all root 3s, or root 3s are all through here. Now, in this case, it went from the periphery, okay, from the center to the periphery, you would draw another circle. That's one way to do it. And this one is going all the way to the edge. The one I'm holding here, we didn't just go to the centers, we went like this. And that makes this form. This is the oldest recognized, important, and energetic design ever. and it's the oldest. Okay, this is found in the pyramids. And this is a representation of a hexagram. And everybody that draws these puts a circle around it. And the reason they do that is they want to make this a mandala. But this is not a mandala. This is a hexagram. So, let's look at the hexagram. Oh, I take Q-tips. This is how I do a lot of discovery. And this is so fun. Now, it'd be fun for you, but for your kids or your grandfather or whatever. And all you do is put these things together like this. You know, they hold together. So I'm going to put 6 of them in here, and I'll make a hexagram because I want to show you something about the hexagram that's interesting. And this, okay, this particular form, okay, is not want to stick real good, but I got one here that's already stuck. Here, there's a hexagram. Okay, but I still need to do some things because I need to go to the center of this. So the Chestahedron is between 2 of these forms. Okay. Well, this is not sticking. I'll tell you what happens is when it gets cold, then the rubber cement doesn't stick. It got too cold. Okay, but that's okay. So, this is the Chestahedron. It has 7 equal surfaces. It has the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 12. None of the Platonic forms have that many numbers in it. So, it has, it's 1. 2 is that it has a kite and a triangle that makes it up. 3, it has 3 kites. 4, it has 4 triangles. 5 in the middle, this right here turns into 5. This is 3 arms of a 5-sided polygon. It has the 6 because of this. This is really neat about this thing, is that if I take this down here like this, these rubber bands, and I take these rubber bands, and I bring them down to the same point, it makes a perfect 6-pointed star right in the middle of the Chestahedron. Of course, that's this. It's the hexagram. So in the middle of this is a 6-pointed star. Now, if you look at any book or internet or whatever, this is the heart chakra symbol. The heart chakra has a 6-pointed star, and around it there are 12 petals. These are 12 edges. There are 12 edges around this form. And right in the middle is this star. Now, this is a golden mean proportion caliper. Okay, so whatever time this is 1, this is 618. And this has to do with the Greeks. And what they found is the process of beauty, which is based on the sunflowers, based on all kinds of things. So if we look at this, the star is at a golden mean proportion. This is one of the things that you have to do. So if you see this distance from here to here, that's the same as this. Anyway, this golden mean proportion means that it has a relationship with the Platonic forms. So I need to show you something here on this board. Well, these are between two Platonic forms. That shows you how important this is for EOS, because this is a transformational form that nobody's ever found in the history of working with Platonic forms or working with polyhedrons. Okay, so the first thing you have the octahedron, and now which one is that over there? You see where the octahedron is? I'll try to draw it like they did, something real quick. Anyway, it's about like this. And it has 8 triangles. It has 8 triangles. Okay, on the other side, over here, you have the cube. So here's the cube. This has 6 faces. This one has 8. This one has 7. It's between these two. What's another thing that's interesting, that these boundary lines, or just the edges, there are 12 in the cube. An octahedron, how many boundary lines are 12. And how many boundary lines here? 12. Now this is a transitional form. This is one that's changing either in this direction or this direction. And remember, these have particular qualities, okay, that you have to try to balance. And this is what this is. This is a balanced form. And not only that, but if I put this into minimum surfaces, anything that is geometry, that has edges that are straight, is trying to become a cube. I'm trying to become a sphere. So if I blow a bubble in here, okay, I get a 7-sided bubble. But it's all organic, it's all spherical. So this is what it looks like. If I blow a bubble in here, this is what it looks like. That's a 7-sided bubble. All I have to do is blow the bubble, photograph it, and then study the edges. And they're all curves. And one thing about the heart is that one thing that I noticed about the heart was that this part right here is a little steeper than this. And so most of the research says that the heart is based on the tetrahedron. It's not, because this is straight down, this doesn't. There's a little indentation a little bit here into 3. This has 3 also. Okay. So here's to show you this. This is the right and left ventricle. This is the left ventricle. I cut the right off, and this is what it looks like. And this is what the form looks like. So even the heart that you see on the internet is so similar to this bubble that I knew I had something. But I really didn't know until I saw this. And this is from Egypt. Thank you. This is here. When I saw this, I couldn't believe it. The first thing was that I went to look at the flower of life, because I realized in the flower of life the Chestahedron is in it. And the reason I found it, or looking for it, and I saw this. And this really got me, because this is in a temple. Hathor is the name of the temple. And this is where women go to birth. They give birth here. So this is a princess up here, Princess Newt. There's her face. Her arms are coming down here, her legs are here. And she swallows the moon. 9 months later, she gives birth to the sun. And then all of this coming down here. All of this. And you can see that those are bells. And this is the Chestahedron. When you spin it, it turns into a bell. You can make that bell by putting lines, spreading it around, and there is a static symbol of the bell. And when I showed this to a Russian bell expert, I showed it to him, and he said, well, what is that? I said, well, it's the shape I've found of the bell. And he says, well, where'd it come from? And I said, well, it came from this. I showed it to him, and he just about fell off his chair. And I said, well, why is that? What's wrong? There's something wrong I did here? He says, no. He says, we make, the Russians make the best bells, and they're the oldest making the bells. Look at him putting his head. And I said, well, how did they do it? He says, well, trial and error. We've never known the geometry behind the bell ever. They don't know. Here it is. So here's this bell. I made it solid. And you can see, look. So what these are hearts. What it's saying that the Egyptians, the Egyptians had clairvoyance. We don't. The Egyptians had clairvoyance, and we lost clairvoyance because we need to develop our own. They just came through them, the clairvoyance. So 4,000 years ago, this is when this was painted, or more. So if you look at 4,000 years, okay, so from where the Egyptians were, you come down to when Christ was crucified. That's 2,000 years. And now we are 2,000 years on the other side, coming back up. So between the Egyptians and the Christians, and then back up to the Egyptians, we are supposed to be looking at the Egyptians now for our inspiration. And of course, this certainly worked for me. So when this happened, okay, I saw all these bells coming into a cube. And if you look at other statues in this temple, there is a cube with Hexagram on the side, on the side, on the top, so forth. So one clairvoyant told me that when we incarnate, if you believe this, and when we incarnate, we are in our hearts when we try to find what we are going to do here on this planet. And we're spinning completely into a bell, and we're spinning at high speeds, and we're going all over the earth, looking for the right parents. We're looking for the right environment to find out what the parent really loves, so that we can incarnate and do the work we came to do here. And every single person in here came here to do something. Everyone, including me. So, the thing about this is this guy right here. I have to tell you, this is 4,000 years old or more. You go on the internet, and all you see are all these. All you see these, and they color them different, and they put shadows, and they do all this kind of stuff. But this is 4,000 years old. We got to stop painting apples. We have got to start doing something new. And so we need to take this, okay, and learn from it, but not stop here. We have to continue. So these guys up here help that. So one of the things that I did was I decided that I wanted to turn this inside out, because I want to know what the outside looked like if I turned it inside out. And of course, inside out has the octahedron. Octahedrons are reversals. So if you have a kidney, I'm getting to tell you what this is. That's the representative of the kidney. So if you have a kidney problem, the idea is to walk backwards. Everything is a reversal. So if I reverse this form, this is the Chestahedron reversed. This is the Chestahedron turned inside out. It's a new form. Nobody's ever seen this before. So you can think, well, what does that mean? How's inside out? Well, here it is, here. Here's the same thing, inside out. So if I take this form and I turn it and open it up like this, and I unwrap it like this, There's two Chestahedrons. So I figured out how to turn it inside out. Now I can turn any of these things inside out, because this one was a tough one. And this one, of course, is here. So I put it in edges only. Edges only. This is turning this thing, this Chestahedron, inside out with the edges only. So to make sure this is lawful and that this isn't BS, then they should be able to see the bell in here. So if you spin it, you can see the bell. Do you see it? You guys see the bell in there? And then you know that you're working lawfully and that you have got something that works. So this is inside out, edges only. Now the cube is really important, and one of the important part here is a guy in Switzerland was told to turn this into an inversion. So what he did is he took this part out of the cube, and then he took this part out of the cube, and then this is an inversion. Look what this does. That's amazing. This is geometric, yet these are making circles. I did the same thing. Once I learned how to do this, I studied this and figured out how he did it. And once I learned how to do it, then I found how to do this with the Chestahedron. And I got a form in here. Where my hand is, there's a form. And that form looks like this. The Chestahedron looks like this if you invert it. And there's two hearts. I have this out of bronze, I have it out of wood, and so forth. But see, this is another thing that indicates the heart isn't a Valentine, but it indicates that there is something going on here that represents the heart to a lot of people. And this circle are the golden mean. And those two circles make up the Chestahedron. Now, one other thing about this is that this is the left ventricle of the heart. And I have found that congestive heart failure relates to this form. So this is congestive heart failure right here. And this is the Chestahedron. And it's bowed out. Here's the triangles. And it's getting to be more like a basketball. And that's what the doctors call congestive heart failure when the heart represents a sphere. Okay, so what this means is that this is trying to become a cube again. The Chestahedron will turn into a cube if you completely expand it. And what happens is that the mitral valve right here gets too small. Whereas in the Chestahedron, you can see that mitral valve is pretty big. But it's getting smaller. So this basically means that the person who has congestive heart failure that's like this, means that it's becoming too materialistic. And that means it's becoming in a cube. And a cube is Earth. And the cube has been incarnated extremely, extremely dense. It's the densest of the Platonic forms. So this means here that this person is getting too involved in the cube. Personality. People who are cube people like to smoke. They like to sit on the ground. They like law and order. They usually make good policemen. They have all these characteristics that are in all of us, but some people have it more. Now, congestive heart failure also does the opposite. It gets too skinny. The same thing will happen. It gets too skinny. That person is becoming too spiritual. What the heart does, it balances the spirit and incarnation. So excarnation and incarnation, the heart balances those two. We can't become too spiritual, okay? Then we get too inflated, okay? And we can't become too earthbound, okay? Because then we have heart failure that's in congestive, getting into the cube. And we have too much of our life centered around materialism. So, I think that what I want to end with is that this represents EOS. What this represents is basically the heart, okay, and keeping a balance between polarities, okay, becoming healthy, becoming honest, because you can't cheat. Once you have two lines across, that's where the compass goes. Okay, so it has a morality that's built to it, okay, which is what EOS is about. And I think that I tried to just bring here the basics of what I discovered, but I have hours that I can show you about what's inside the heart, what it's doing that has nothing to do with what the doctors are saying. That has to do with the geometry. And the geometry is lawful transformations. And this is a transformational form. You see the black lines? Can you see the black lines in there? Yeah. I don't know if you can or not. Yeah. Those black lines are forms inside. So everything that you just saw here, okay, I didn't use any of my senses. This is sense-free working. I saw none of this. If I take this form, okay, and I cut the corners off, it turns into this form. This is the decatria. Inside here is the Chestahedron. The EOS symbol is inside this. And this is what goes around the heart at night, okay, I've been told, to reconstruct it for the next day. Okay, so what's interesting about that is that this is what I mean by starting to do something new. This is 19 circles, okay? And if you take this one here, this circle, there's 6 around 1, that's 7. That's the Chestahedron. Chestahedron fits in there. And then around that, you have 19. Okay, so this has 13 faces and 19 lines, borders, edges. That's what this has. There's 19 circles here. So what we need to do is to take what there is in the past, but not copy it. Okay? And you have to remember that I have worked out a basis that's based on copying, innovation, imagination, inspiration, and intuition. And that process of 5 I follow in all of this. So the first one that comes is copying, and that's what a child does. A child copies his parents, and whatever he does until about 5 or 6. Okay, the next stage, okay, after copying is innovation. And that's what's going on the internet with this. Everybody's innovating this thing. And what's innovating is copying at a higher level. Just by putting different colors in here. Well, that's not good enough. Then what's next after that is imagination. And imagination is coming from an idea. So if you have an idea and you want to bring it in, you have to do geometry first. And that's the imagination. After that is inspiration. Inspiration is where you're so excited by what you do, you can't stop. Okay, and I see a lot of that in here, which is great. This is really great. You can't stop. And what happens after you can't stop? You're inspired. It becomes what you do in your life and makes, this is better than alcohol. Then comes the last stage, which is intuition. And intuition is where you get help from the outside. You get help across the threshold to understand and be able to do things you can't do here. And why are all this is being done is because what is across the threshold, when we go across the threshold, We can't do this. We can only do it here. So if you don't take what you have got here on Earth and you go across, you're not going to be able to do anything over there. Only here. This is the only place you can develop, the only place you can transform yourself. So I think it's really fortunate that you will listen to this, and I have an example to show you of what I found. So EOS, thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank. Such an honor and a privilege. For those of you that have some understanding of this, you clearly get kind of why this is important and why this is relevant. And for those of you that this might be new, hopefully this is an opportunity where you've been inspired to some degree to go take this lesson and continue it on your own. A lot of this can be found on the internet. This is information that was held very secretly for millenniums. And thanks to the internet, thanks to YouTube, thanks to other things, this information is now readily available to you if you seek it. A couple of closing points I'd like to make. Frank did a wonderful job of explaining the Chestahedron and explaining its connection with the heart. And I think it's very relevant to all of us as the builders. Technology doesn't have morals. Technology doesn't have ethics, right? Technology is a tool. And we are working on systems that have the potential to change the world, to change everything. And as we design the future, what kind of future do we want? That future is going to be determined by the quality of people that build it and the intentions by which we operate. Is what we're doing coming from the heart? What is it that's motivating us? Why are we here? Why are we working on these things? And it's very important because the responsibility, that we have is, call it the builders on the front line that are building these systems that are going to cause massive potential transformation, in the world. Always be asking yourself, why? Why am I doing this? Preferably, it's for something more than yourself. One of the keys to happiness is going beyond the self, the me to the we. And that doesn't mean we don't have to have some degree of selfishness, and like on an airplane, you have to, make sure that you take care of yourself first, then others. But one of the greatest keys to happiness is starting to love, starting to have a heart, starting to care about others, and to live for something more than yourself. We have a tremendous responsibility here. It's such an honor and a privilege to be able to connect with all of you. Such an honor and a privilege to be able to present Frank to the community for the first time ever. What an honor. Continue building the wonderful things that you're doing. Thank you, thank you, thank you.